look, I normally don't cover Meghan Markle stuff, and I haven't made a video on her in a long time, but Charles needs to grow. King Charles, His Royal Highness, needs to grow some balls, and he needs to take away her titles. It's ridiculous that she is claiming to represent the royal family in anything. When I saw this week, I find her very annoying and Harry very annoying. And I thought what they did in that Oprah interview was awful. And that the documentary they did, the Netflix documentary, was awful. And his stupid book, Spare, was awful. Like, these are things I've commented on. But I really think that she reached a new low using the HRH title in a stupid gift basket. She was specifically told, apparently, by the Queen of England before the lady died, that she was not to use the HRH title, particularly not to use it to promote her own business ventures, her own personal ventures. Now, I know a lot of people may say, who the fuck cares about an HRH title? All of this is silly, trivial anyway. Okay, maybe to you it is. But what's interesting to me here, the relevant point is not the HRH title. The relevant point here is that this was one of the conditions for Meghan and Harry getting the nice send away package that they got when they left for California, because despite what they would have you to believe, they got a lot of financial support from elsewhere, from their family after they left, from I should say Harry's family after they left. And there was a deal made, an explicit deal apparently between the Queen and Harry, that in exchange for whatever concessions the Queen made to him, that they were not to use those HRH titles. And you see now Meghan Markle putting HRH, Duchess of Sussex, on her stupid gift basket, some ice cream and some homemade jam for that ridiculous, awful brand that she's trying to launch. As ever, what does that even mean? I guess it's better than the American Riviera Orchard brand name. Actually, I think that was better. At least it meant something. She thinks that she is so clever, so intellectual. But this is a new low. The HRH thing is a really new low because it is just a direct FU to the late Queen and certainly to the current royal family. And look, I know where Charles is coming from on this. He has gone so easy on them, so easy on them. He should have, look, they should have all of their titles taken away. Take away the Duchess of Sussex thing, take away the HRH, because they have done nothing but cause damage to the royal family and to the perception of the royal family since they left. And it wasn't, mind you, inadvertent damage that they caused, unintentional, unconscious damage. No, they set out to, honestly, in a way reminiscent of other people that I've covered, like Blake Lively and Amber Heard and others, not on that same level, not as bad, but they set out to, in various interviews and in their documentary and in his book, they set out to damage public perception of the royal family. There's just no other way around it. Meanwhile, they got a very nice send-off package and continue to get benefits from their association with the royal family. How can you, Meghan Markle, describe your time in the royal family as being in the trenches because it was that awful? And how can you go around intimating how racist the royal family is and how much you were mistreated? And in that stupid Oprah interview, trying to make people think that the reason that your son hadn't gotten whatever title you were wanting him to get is because he was black, that his grandparents would withhold from him, from Archie, a title from their own grandson because of racism. I mean, give me a break. But this is what and people wonder why there's so much hatred for Meghan Markle. Go back. If you wonder why so many people can't stand Meghan Markle, go back and watch that Oprah interview and open your ears up and your mind up to what she was saying in that interview and to what he was saying. They were saying terrible things about the royal family, and it just continued. So why, if it's so horrible, if it's such a horrible institution, Meghan Markle, why? And you felt like you were in a war zone during your time there. Why then would you seek to capitalize on your connection to this horrible, abusive institution? Why continue to tout it when you're promoting your jam and your stupid as ever brand? It is so insulting and it's so wrong. She needs to have her title taken away. So look, I know where Charles is coming from. He's an old man. He's a sick man. And when you get to be old and sick like that, you just want to have peace, and you want to have your children and your grandchildren with you, and you want to know that you're leaving behind a legacy of family togetherness. That is one of the things when people get to the end, most people, that they become very focused on is the state of their family as they're leaving, and wanting to leave that family intact and in as good a state as possible. So, of course, the last thing that Charles wants to do, being an old, sick man, is further alienate his son and his daughter-in-law. Charles wants everyone to get along, and I'm sure he wants Harry to come back into the fold. Charles is probably waiting for Harry to come to his senses and to come back to the UK, maybe with Meghan, maybe not. But I think Charles wants his family to be reunified. But Charles, that is not going to happen. And if I were William, I would be so pissed. I saw the reports today that William plans to take away Meghan Markle's, and I guess Harry's, I don't know, but take away Meghan Markle's titles. Well, he should. At least Harry did some things before he was led astray or went astray. At least he did a number of things to help the royal family. At least Harry served in the military, contributed something. It's a shame that he was so led astray by love. And no, I'm not blaming it all on her, but I'm just saying that, Harry already had his problematic issues with the royal family. But as often happens in these situations, once the lady comes along and injects herself into it in this kind of situation, the in-law, then she just reinforces whatever negative perceptions Harry had. What Harry really needed was a woman to come into his life and shake a little sense into him and say, come on, get it together, grow up. You didn't have the worst childhood in the world. Actually, even with your mom being killed or dying in that wreck, you still have a great family, a great network here, a great foundation, a great home. You have so much, Harry. And why don't you pick yourself up and actually move forward with life in a sense of gratitude? But instead, he gets a woman who comes along and reinforces every existent grievance he has and then creates more. I think of that story about how when Harry and Meghan went to a theater performance, I think it was some kind of big performance. And of course, they were guests of honor. And when they should have been sitting there enjoying this, Harry can't enjoy it because Meghan has just announced to him tearfully that she is suicidal. Why is she suicidal? Oh, because she got a little negative coverage, self-induced negative coverage. She's crying to herself. She says, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm suicidal. Give me a break. But Charles wants to paper over all of this. He wants to buy as much time as he can. And it's just sad because they have damaged for a number of people. I know a lot of people saw through it, but a lot of people didn't. They damaged the royal family, the reputation and perception of the royal family. They have put members of the royal family through hell. I mean, how do we know that one of the contributing factors to Princess Catherine's cancer was not all of the stress, the tremendous stress of the last several years with Harry and Meghan and what they've pulled? You don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch. Maybe it's not. It's kind of like when Justin Baldoni ended up in the hospital after dealing with Blake Lively for months and months, and we don't even know what all is going on behind the scenes that they probably had to deal with. So she's not representing, look, Charles, you'll never see this, but if by some chance someone shows this to you, she's not representing the royal family, and she's certainly not representing the royal family in a positive way. In fact, every time the royal family comes up as a topic, she seeks to denigrate it and to talk about what a house of horrors it is and how she was in the trenches, et cetera, et cetera. She has actively damaged the reputation of the royal family, and she continues to, and she will in the future. So you know what's going on here. How on earth can that person continue to possess the coveted titles of HRH and Duchess of Sussex? She has nothing to do with Sussex. She has nothing to do with anything in the UK. She's just married to that unfortunate sop because she knew how to feed into all of his childhood issues with his mother. She puts on a good facade. I'll give her that. She puts on a good facade for a while. Very polished, very attractive. But she needs those titles taken away. They need to be taken away. And it's just sad that Charles doesn't have the wherewithal or the balls or the state of mind to do it. But William does. And when he becomes king, he needs to take those titles away. Charles, she's not representing the royal family. She's actively working against it. She and Harry decided to move all the way around the world to get as far away from you, sir, as well as the rest of the royal family and the UK. They gave a big FU to you and the UK and the future king and queen as they went away, and they continue to give a big FU to all of you. And you think, Charles, that this is the kind of person who needs to be endowed with the coveted HRH title? And like so many people with personality disorders, like so many narcissists, Meghan Markle is an inveterate boundary pusher. She has to push boundaries. There was no reason why she had to use that HRH title. And look, she knows. Let me tell you something else, everybody. Think about this. Meghan Markle knows that everyone else knows that HRH title was part of her deal with the Queen, that it was a pivotal part of the deal with the Queen. That was one of the few details of their agreement, of the Queen's agreement with Prince Harry. That was one of the main details that were reported in the media, the HRH thing, and that was a big issue. And a lot of people thought that they needed to be stripped of that HRH, again, because it is so coveted. Not all, as I understand it, it's not something that all aristocracy get. It's basically just for the inner circle of the royal family. She doesn't deserve it. But here's the thing. She knows that everybody else knows that she's not supposed to be using that HRH title. And so for her to not only use it, but get this, for Meghan Markle to not only use the HRH title, but to put it on something as trite and banal and silly as a basket of jam and ice cream, for her to do that, that was an explicit, obvious FU to the royal family. Here's, that title. This is what she's saying to all of you. This is what she's saying to you, Charles, and to you, William, and to all of her critics out there. She's saying, hey, that title that the Queen said I wasn't supposed to use, and that was like a big part of Harry's agreement with her and everything. And that's one of the reasons why we did get the concessions that we got and why we were financially supported in various ways. Do you want to know why? You remember that title? Well, guess what? I'm going to misuse it in the most trite, banal, commercialized way that I can, just to show you how little I think of your concern for your fucking title. That's what Meghan is saying. That's what she's saying. I've done other videos on the royal family and on Meghan Markle. It's been a while, but if you want to hear more of my thoughts, check out my playlist. It is linked below. Bye, everybody.